Hi guys, welcome back to another Toce Talk with Andre Toce and myself. How's it going, brother?
It's going good, brother. Today's market action's a lot better than last time we recorded.
Yeah, that was wild. Still at war though, so we'll see.
We are still at war. We'll see. The price of oil is up I think it's 50% higher than last time we recorded just a couple weeks ago.
That's nuts. And gas prices almost that much.
Yeah, which is something that hits the everyday life of the consumer a lot more than 99% of other financial news. So I think what's going on right now is especially relevant for the average person, and it's making all of the inflation talk kind of come to a head now because the price of gas, people are very sensitive to food prices, gas prices. And not only has the price of oil shot up, but if you look at the price of wheat right now, wheat's a staple in so many different foods, and it is. I can't quote a percent number, but I want to say it's up 200%.
I heard soy and corn doubled in a couple weeks or something. Yeah, something wild.
So some serious things to consider and talk about as far as just how this affects the psychology of the individual.
Speaking of the psychology of the individual, started reading this new book called The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it's quite fascinating.
Scooch over a little bit. Tell me about it.
Chapter 1 is called People Are Not Crazy. And
all right. Tell me why they're not
I might
crazy.
Disagree with that, but
the author's never met me.
Right. Morgan says that people aren't crazy, but they make seemingly crazy financial decisions all the time, right? And everyone probably agrees with that. And the example of this is that the lowest income households spend 4 times as much as the highest income households on the lottery every year, which is around $80 billion and more than we spend on movies, books, music, and sporting events combined.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Dang, that's insane.
A lot.
I mean, I've always heard that the lottery is a hidden tax on the poor, because you look at the stats and it's the poor people who buy lottery tickets. And but I mean, wow, that's kind of a scary stat. And then you think about the fact that government, state governments, sponsor these lotteries. Really...
I was just reading that online. I did not realize that until 5 minutes ago. I was like, how is that okay? I'm learning how the IRS or the Senate, whoever writes the laws, Congress, incentivizes people to save for their retirement so they don't become a burden on society, and that's why we have awesome tax-advantaged retirement accounts like the Roth IRA. At the same time, local state governments are sponsoring lotteries. It's it's so gross. What the hell?
Yeah. To me, it comes down to it's not exactly freedom of speech, but just freedom in general. So if people want to have some one-off shot at becoming a multimillionaire, give the people what they want. But at the same time, it's the state is supposed to be a steward of its citizens.
Right.
I mean, if you start talking about outlawing stuff like lottery, then what's to say we don't outlaw alcohol? Also, it causes a lot of damage too. We let people drink.
Right.
People want to gamble, let them gamble. Yes.
Just interesting that it's sponsored by the government.
Yeah, exactly. Alcohol is not sponsored and subsidized by the government.
Right.
It kind of makes me think. Oftentimes we talk about, all right, if you look back, any period. If you look back 100 years, the practices of the 100-year earlier period, some of the things seem barbaric and crazy. Can't believe we used to do that, And this might be one of those things that we look back at 100 years and be like, can you believe that states used to actually sponsor lotteries to tax poor people?
I hope we look back and say that, because it's probably
I hope so too.
It's not a great thing, but so Morgan also throws out a couple other stats 40% of Americans can't come up with $400 in an emergency, and that happens to
Wait, what percent?
40%. Almost half of the population can't come up with $400 in an emergency. Wow. And ironically, that's on average what the lowest income households spend on the lottery every year. So they're quite literally the same people are throwing away their safety net on one in millions and millions and millions chance of becoming wealthy.
Yeah. I think it's like you're more likely to get struck by lightning twice than you are to win the lottery.
Yeah.
I heard that. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds...
I believe it's true because, I mean, it's personal... I knew we had this crazy teacher at Mandeville High. I guess I shouldn't say his name.
Yeah.
But he got struck by lightning like 7 times.
We praised by name and criticized by category.
Yes. No, I don't know. I didn't know him too well, but I'm sure crazy in good ways too. But yeah, got struck by lightning like 4 or 5 times or something wild.
What?
Yeah, like I don't know.
Did he ever play the lottery?
Probably. Maybe he should.
Play the lottery, man.
But when the author Morgan was describing like those stats, or using those stats to describe the, how someone in that financial situation might be compelled to buy lottery tickets. Basically saying like, I think this is kind of crazy, but I can see how lottery sales still persist. And he sort of did it by, put yourself in that person's shoes and just imagine the reasoning they might have. And
yeah, what other method are they going to have? You either have a 0% chance of getting wealthy or a 0.01% chance.
Exactly. If you don't know, if you're not educated or like have, I don't know, everyone has the ability to find the information, but if you're not incentivized, you're not probably going to. But if you tell yourself like, I live paycheck to paycheck. I can't afford to go on vacations. I can barely afford to pay for my kids and my rent and to eat every month. I have to work every single day. I have to take whatever job I can get because I don't have any money saved up. And you see wealthy people all around you. America's a wealthy place, and these people are living a dream. And just spending money on playing the lottery. That's just my chance at living a dream life everyone else already has. And so if you tell yourself that, it's really easy to see how you could spend that much money on the lottery. Or it's easier to see, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I the example that comes to mind in basketball, like an amateur basketball team, if they try to shoot way too many 3-pointers, you lose because you have to be, slow, consistent, get your layups, unless you have Steph Curry on your team, I guess, because I watched a video of him the other day where he just nailed like 8 half-court shots in a row. Wow, okay. But to tell somebody, hey, look, you need to just sock away that $50 a month for the next 10 years, and then maybe you'll have enough to take your family on vacation. It's like, it's not really compelling.
It's not as appealing at all as buy this ticket and it could be
you might be a millionaire next week.
Yeah, or billionaire almost, 100 millionaire.
Pre-tax, G.
Right.
All right, so what else are we talking about the first chapter of The Psychology of Money?
Yeah. So
what else did it? So what was like the conclusion of the whole thing, the chapter?
I'm not sure. Like I don't really know the point he's trying to get across. Other than just like, people make seemingly crazy decisions all the time, but given their life experience and all the information they have, plugging into their mental models of how the world works for each financial decision they make, each decision they make makes sense to them in that moment.
Right. Dave Chappelle said something back in the Gap when everybody was criticizing him for like walking away from his show. He walked away from $50 million and went off the reservation, and people were calling him crazy. And he said you should, crazy is just people's word for misunderstood. Like, you're not crazy, you're just not understood. And I think pretty much anybody who actually is going to pick up the book Psychology of Money and think, yes, this is something that I'd like to read, is probably someone who is not the person buying lottery tickets. And so from the perspective of the person reading the book, you think, yeah, these people are crazy and making stupid decisions, but if you stop for a second, put yourself in their shoes, maybe it's not so crazy after all. Is it the right decision? Of course not. But it's definitely not a crazy decision.
Right.
And for us as advisors, like, we have to be able to step into the shoes of every one of our clients. I mean, I have clients that come through and say, I'm not a big fan of whole life insurance for young people. But I've had clients come through and say, hey, look, my grandpa told me whatever you do, always just buy whole life insurance and pay that premium, and you'll be okay. And I mean, I'm not going to sit there and tell the person your grandpa's wrong.
Right.
If they're going to put $120, $150 in whole life insurance, I mean, I'll tell them that I think there's other options. But if that's where your heart's at, it's not the worst decision in the world. I mean, a lot of people, I tell them you probably shouldn't be buying real estate. But that sounds crazy. Or telling someone, hey, you know, you shouldn't be trying to pay off your house. You should be borrowing as much as you possibly can against your house. That might sound crazy to somebody who, I mean, I talked to a very sophisticated individual the other day who said they just don't feel comfortable having more than half of the home equity, over 50% loan to value ratio. So, you know, he's got a $500,000 house. He wants to pay off half of it and only owe $250,000. And, you know, tell him like, hey, look, there's a lot of other things you could do with $200,000 that would probably increase your net worth faster.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, I understand that. I get the math. I just don't want to owe that. I just don't want the bank to own that much of my house. And it's a preference thing. So I guess that's a long-winded way of saying it. The point is, instead of judging people, like, first realize like what their perspective is.
Don't judge. Try to understand. He said, people don't make, you know, we all want to believe that, you know, successful rich people make like financial decisions with a spreadsheet and a calculator, but like rarely ever does that happen. Financial decisions are made at the dinner table with your biases and personal life experiences and opinions and worries about your families and emotions.
Yeah. Boom. That's the conclusion. I used to think that too. I used to think that like every business owner was like taking calculated risks, and they had spreadsheets and they had bookkeepers and they were doing financial analyses.
Yeah.
And then I get into the world where I start advising people and I you know, take a look under the hood at these businesses and it's like, oh my God, everyone's just flying by the seat of their pants.
Yes.
In March of 2020, it was crazy to see how like the economy shuts down and then all of these major corporations are like, oh, we can't pay our bills. It's like, dude,
what?
You make $3 billion a year in revenue. Are you really living paycheck to paycheck? Like month to month?
Right.
You don't have enough cash to cover like 2-3 months of expenses.
And if so, why? Because another thing Morgan Housel says, longevity in the game. Like whatever you do, you know, plan on your plan not going according to plan, but you have to do whatever you have to do to make sure that you don't get wiped out completely. You know, levering up and buying things you don't understand, and you know, market crashes 50%. If you're levered up 2 to 1, boom, you're at zero.
So you're saying I shouldn't lever up on my crypto tokens?
Probably not.
Because literally everyone told me that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Well, he does say he references a study that did some calculations or some I don't know, saying if you invest like in the traditional life cycle funds or whatever it is, target date life cycle funds, and you just lever up 2 to 1, and you know you might get wiped out if there's a 50% decline, but as long as you start back investing the very next day with 2 to 1 leverage, you'll be better off in the long run, like 90% of the time. But that's rational, but it's completely unreasonable because you, especially like as an advisor, I would never expect anybody who just got, you know, saw their holdings go to zero, like everything they bought doesn't exist anymore, like completely lose. Why would they immediately start back again and lever up 2 to 1? Like it makes zero sense. On paper and math, it works.
Yeah, so much easier said than done. I mean, I look at stocks that I've owned and watched them go down 50% or more. And, you know, before the decline, it's like, oh, man, I hope this thing drops because I would love to buy more at a cheaper price. And then it actually happens and you go, well, let me make sure I'm not missing anything here.
Really start researching.
No, I love this. Nothing will make you research a stock like buying the stock, watching it go down 20%.
Yeah.
Then you start, where's that annual filing?
Yeah.
What are the analysts saying about this thing? Now I really want to know what I own. Yeah. So really, theory and practice should be the same, but in practice, theory and practice are not the same.
Right. Say that again.
In theory and practice are the same, but in practice, theory and practice are not the same.
Correct. I love it. That's
So,
awesome.
knowing that you're a human and you're susceptible to all these human tendencies, I mean, might not be such a bad idea to not walk it alone, you know, to have someone to, like, bounce ideas off of and get counsel from.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something you're interested in, call Toce Financial Group. We got you.
Agreed.
You want to wrap this up?
Let's take it out. Take it down. We'll see you guys next time on Toce Talk.